Hello, all. Welcome to our presentation. Today we will be talking about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Part 2. We're going to be covering the habits 4 to 7 today. Our group members include myself, Emily, Keishan, Anjali, Frank, and Tony. Next slide. So the first habit that we're talking about today is the fourth habit, which is to think win-win. This essentially means that you would like to work with others to receive the results that works for everybody, so that in the end, both sides of an agreement or a process are happy and fulfilled. So Covey points out there are 4 main steps to this. The first one is to see the problem from the other point of view, which means to really just dive deep, try to gain a really comprehensive view of the other side's background and where they're coming from, essentially. The second one is to identify the key issues and concerns involved with whatever you're trying to figure out. So trying to look at like all of those key components of whatever process you're trying to figure out. The third is to determine what results that would be able to make an adequate solution. So looking at all the types of things that you would think would be the best acceptable solution to your issue. And then the fourth is very important as well. It's to identify any possible new options to achieve these results. So just in case you don't necessarily get your most optimal solution, there should still be ways to get better results that works for both you and whoever you're making that agreement with. Next slide, please. All right, thank you. So Covey points out that trying to get a win-win is not so much of a personality-based issue, but rather a process-based issue. However, he points out 3 main character traits that could be very, very helpful in trying to achieve that win-win. The first is keeping your integrity, making meaningful promises and commitments with whatever you do in the process. The second is maturity, which is essentially that ability to express whatever you're trying to feel while also still being very considerate of others' feelings and what they're trying to get out of the process. The third is the abundance mentality, which is essentially when you have to understand that there are unlimited possibilities and limited means for achieving that goal, which you want. This is in contrast to the scarcity mentality, where you only think that there's only one way to do it. There's only one way that you are able to really succeed in whatever agreement or process that you're doing. It's not really the case. Covey points out there's an abundance of different ways that you can go with your growth and development. Next slide, please. All right, so with that, Covey then goes to identify the 5 main things that you would like to point out before actually coming to your win-win agreement. The first is to identify your desired results. So that essentially is trying to outline what needs to be done when all of those details. The next are guidelines. So you're trying to kind of point out any principles and policies that you want to follow as you try to achieve those desired results. The third is resources. That is going to try to identify how many people or monetary or physical capital that you have in order to achieve your desired results. What do you have? The fourth is accountability. So that kind of goes to setting the standards of expectations and how much time you have to achieve your desired results. The fifth is consequences. What happens if a situation occurs, whether it's good or bad? That's kind of something like setting a contingency plan. So I mentioned this before with our group, but a few days before kind of doing this presentation, we decided on a contingency plan. So what happens if something didn't happen, somebody maybe like wasn't able to do their part in the presentation or some other situation? You need to figure out what will the consequences be of that and how you will be able to resolve that situation afterwards. All right, so that's all there is to get a win-win argument. If you keep those things in mind, then you would be able to achieve those desired results, not for the other person, but also for yourself as well. All right, next slide, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kishan, and I will be doing habit 5, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So what the main point of this habit is empathetic listening. So it's important to keep in mind what the difference of empathy and sympathy is. Sympathy is pitying someone based on the situation or circumstances. Empathizing with someone means that you understand what it is to be like them, to be in their situation, and you feel for them. You don't pity them, you feel what they feel. And that's what empathy is. And the key of empathetic listening is tuning into the fact that just like how people have physical needs and physical survival needs, people also have psychological survival needs, which is to be wanted, to be understood, to be appreciated. And this is what empathetic listening leans on. So one of the main things about seeking first to understand is that you have to diagnose a problem before you prescribe a problem. So what I mean by that is if you go to an optometrist for glasses and you never had glasses before, and the optometrist gives you his own glasses and tells you, hey, it's worked for me for 10 years. It should work for you as well. That is not helping your situation. So that is kind of what you have to do with conversations as well. So like how doctors prescribe diagnose an issue and then prescribe medication, we would have to do that with relationships and communications as well. So what I mean by that is instead of when someone comes to you with an issue, instead of just immediately trying to solve it, what we want to do is that we want to understand why they have that problem, how they got to the problem, how the person feels about having that problem, and then work on resolving the issue. Because by doing this, the person will feel like you understand them and they'll be more likely to open up to you. And on the left-hand side, you see a picture of the 4 responses that we have on default. And that is something we don't want to do and we want to stray away from. We want to do that when we're trying to solve the problem, but when we're trying to understand them, we want to try to avoid doing that. Next slide, please. And there are 4 stages for empathetic listening. So once someone tells you something, what you want to do is that you want to repeat what they said, at least in your mind, or actually saying it out loud. So you want to repeat what they said, and then after you repeat what they said, you want to rephrase it to what you think they mean. So someone says something, it doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly what they mean. People usually have meanings behind what they're saying. So that's what rephrasing the content is. So once you rephrase with a sentence, now you have to reflect on what the person felt when they said that, or what the feeling emotion was behind that statement. And once you reflect on the content and the feeling, you have a better understanding of what the person meant and what the person's feeling, and that will help you understand them better. Next slide, please. And this is where understanding and perception comes. So once you use those 4 empathetic listening steps, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to understand that person better. So once you understand that person better, you'll be able to appreciate the differences in perspective that you have with them, that they have, and the perspectives you have. So with that, you'll be able to better understand where they're coming from and how you saying something might make them feel, and that will enable you to help them better and influence them in a positive manner. The next step is seeking to be understood. So once you understand someone else, you also want them to understand you. A relationship is a 2-way street, not a 1-way street. So what you want to do, this could be professional or personal. So what you want to do is that now you have to think like you're the person who wants to be understood. What do you want? You want clear communication with the other person and let them know what exactly you want, what you're feeling, how you're feeling, why you're feeling it, so that they can understand where you're coming from. And this is where ethos, pathos, and logos comes in. So ethos is your personal credibility. So when you're trying to talk to a person and convince them, you need to think about what your personal credibility is with that person. What do they think of you? Do they think you're trustworthy? Do they think they can open themselves up to you? Do you think you're not trustworthy? You keep that in mind, along with the fact that what is your personal relationship with them right now, which is emotional alignment or pathos. So while you keep those 2 in mind, you have to use logos or logical reasoning to explain logically why, based on how our relationship is right now and why I'm doing X, Y, and Z, why this solution works or this scenario works. And using that, you'll be able to come to better understanding towards them and yourselves. Next slide, please. And the way you can do this is practice, practice, and practice. That's the only way you can do this. So you have to the way to build this is to practice, and the easiest way to do that is, since we're all stuck at home, what we could do is we could practice with our parents, siblings, or close friends. The next time you do it, there is activity that you could possibly do. By the way, this is not the group activity. This is just one thing you could do on the side. That is something you may want to try to do yourself so that you can build your skills on this habit. So once again, you have to just practice the skills, have open, clear communication, try to understand what the other person is meaning, not what they're exactly saying. Try to understand what's hidden behind what they're trying to say. Try to understand their feeling. And once you understand their feelings and their emotions, you'll be able to understand, you'll be able to empathize with them and then come to a better understanding. And the perfect person who exemplifies this is Oprah Winfrey. If you ever watched her show, you'll notice how the strangers go onto her show and open up to her like she's their confidant. So that is what, not everybody can be as charismatic and empathetic as Oprah, but that is something we should strive for. So that's like the goal we want to aim for, and that is a good example that you could try to follow, and then help influence people around you better and build better, stronger, positive relationships. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anjali. We're going to be talking about habit number 6, which is synergizing. Covey defines synergy as the essence of principle-centered leadership. It catalyzes, unifies, and unleashes the greatest powers within people. This basically means that to reach our best potential, we, in a work setting or even in our personal lives, we have to be able to understand other people's perspectives by being empathetic, as Kishan mentioned in his habit. Now, synergizing is very difficult, and to be able to reach this step, or to be able to practice this habit, we have to have habits 1 through 5 down perfectly. We have to be able to empathize. We have to think with a win-win mentality. And one common misconception that most people have with synergizing is that they confuse it with collaboration, which is very different. Next slide, please. So synergizing is not just collaborating and working in a group and throwing ideas in the air. It's basically throwing ideas in the air, hoping to receive constructive criticism from your group members and hoping to understand where they're coming from. It's having a supportive and open understanding of what's going on around you. This takes a lot of practice. It's very, very difficult to be so open-minded and to be open to this sort of criticism and to not be so emotional or defensive. But fortunately, we can apply this habit to many aspects of our lives, so we can get a lot of practice. I think one amazing example that the book offers about synergizing is, if you plant 2 plants close together, the roots commingle and improve the quality of the soil so that both plants will grow better than if separated. Now, this helps explain the equation 1 + 1 = 3. You have 2 different plants, plant 1 and plant 2, 2 separate identities that are extracting resources from the soil for their survival. Plant 1 doing its own thing, plant 2 doing its own thing. And so you are combining those 2 parts, and you basically have 2. 1 + 1 = 2. 2 people doing their own thing. But then if they were to synergize, they would commingle their roots together so that they could extract an abundance of resources from the soil, so that not only are they surviving for themselves, they're surviving for another person. I mean, for another plant, I'm sorry. So they're extracting more resources than they could if they were doing it alone, which helps us understand the concept that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. If we look at it in a bigger picture, they're being more efficient extracting resources when they're doing it together, as opposed to them doing it by themselves. Next slide, please. So another important aspect of synergy is levels of communication. Communication is key. So you have the lowest level of communication, which is the win-lose scenario, where most people are really defensive, that if you were to criticize their perspective or to question them, they would become defensive and a little bit shy and wouldn't feel comfortable explaining themselves. And this is a very ineffective form of communication. It's really hard to make progress. But then you have the middle, which is where people are really respectful. This is where they mostly compromise, because they understand where you're coming from. The other person understands where you're coming from. And they respect each other's ideas, but they don't criticize. They don't try to pinpoint the flaws and pick it to pieces to find the best solution. So you're basically finding an okay solution, which is better than not finding one at all. But then you have a synergistic level of communication, which is a win-win scenario, where 2 people are throwing out ideas, or more people are throwing out ideas, and they're really digging deep and trying to understand where those ideas are coming from and what ideas they're factoring into it to come to the best solution, kind of like systems thinking. And a lot of times this is a genuine interaction and many people enjoy it as well. If it's really relieving because they're able to speak their mind and dig really, really deep to come up with the best solution possible. Next slide, please. And then you have fishing for the third alternative. As we discussed, synergizing is not the easiest task because it's really hard to understand the difference between collaborating and synergizing. A lot of people think that when they work in a group or when they talk to other people, they're synergizing, but that's not it. A key factor to synergizing is empathy, is valuing the difference, is understanding where people are coming from, is being open-minded, understanding emotions, the actual situation at hand. And once you have that down, you are able to think through the entire problem, make the situation your own situation. Even if it's something that you've never experienced before, you're able to behave as if it's something that you are experiencing, which is really important. There's also such thing as negative synergy is when you understand that there is a problem and you are proactive and you want to find a solution, but you don't understand how to apply your feelings and your emotion to it. You don't know how to understand everyone else around you. So there's something called a force field analysis, which is where there are two driving forces to how a person makes decisions or how a person behaves, which is a positive and negative force. A positive force is having positive thoughts and positive attitude, whereas a negative is having negative attitudes and negative attitudes. So basically, in an organization, you're going to have two different mindsets, a positive one and a negative one. When you want to synergize, you have to try to take the negative and the positive mindset to break them down to find not really a compromise, but to find a way and to find points so that they can relate to both parties or to multiple people so that it could be their own problem. It's a shared problem and you can come up with a really good solution. And lastly, synergy is really natural. We all have it within us. We just don't use it. We tend to get distracted by our own opinions and our emotions and feelings that we become defensive and protective. And we start to protect other people's feelings and we become a little bit more apprehensive to share our true perspective and to criticize and to engage in conflict. So the best way to start synergizing is to start with yourself and practice in your everyday life when it comes to making decisions for yourself and understanding your feelings and why you think the way that you do. Thank you so much. And now on to Tony for her part. Thank you.
My name is Antoinette Tony, and I'll be focusing on habit 7. So habit number 7 focuses on the balance between your 4 dimensions of renewal: physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual. If you dig deep into yourself and you focus on every aspect that makes yourself and you sharpen your skills, you can become a greater asset to your work team or in your relationships. So first, we're going to start off with our first dimension, physical. So the physical dimension focuses on caring effectively for your body. It could mean that exercising regularly, getting the good amount of sleep, or eating right. And all these combined can help you to improve your aspects in all other parts of your health. And also, it teaches you great lessons. It strengthens your muscles of proactivity. I know as a runner myself, the more I train and the more I endure through hard workouts or even run in the rain, I become more resilient, and I can use that skill of resilience and apply it to other parts of my life. So the next dimension is spiritual. So the spiritual dimension, it's the driver that uplifts you and it makes you feel better about yourself, and it helps you to become motivated in what you're doing. So there's different ways to renew your spirits. You can either immerse yourself into reading a good book or listening to good music or looking at nature. Personally, for me, I like to go to the beach, and I just know that after going to the beach, I'll feel rejuvenated and ready to work, and I just feel like like a gas, like I'm not on E anymore. I have all this energy to work. And a quote in the book that Covey quotes, by Martin Luther King. He says that I have so much to do today, I'll need to spend another hour on my knees, which signifies his significance in focusing on his spirituality to become the leader he is today. Also, like we did in class last week with our personal mission statements, these statements can help you motivate you and help you focus on your goal in the future. So the third dimension is the mental dimension, our mental dimension, and our mental development and study discipline comes from education. And while most of our development comes from the classroom, there's also ways to be proactive with exercising your mind outside of the classroom, like reading for leisure or writing or doing stuff for fun, just to keep that mental capacity high. You can also watch TV, but that time management comes in with that because it does enrich your mind. But if you watch TV too much, it could impede on what you do in other parts of your life. So this applies to the quote that Covey says in the book, television is a good servant, but a poor master. Also with this dimension, organizing and planning can help you to pinpoint and make steps towards reaching your goal in the future. And that helps to improve your mental aspects of your mind. And then the fourth dimension is centered on the principles of cooperative leadership, empathetic communication, and creative cooperations, like we talked about in the habits before. Basically, in a work atmosphere, working together, compromising, and bringing all the principles together to come up with a third solution can help to create better energy for the work atmosphere, and everyone can get what they want. And to combine these three principles, we need to have intrinsic security and to have harmony with all the social, the mental, the physical, and the spiritual dimensions together. With the balance of these, you can live in harmony and you can have this intrinsic security. So basically, to put it all together, these four dimensions can help improve our aspects within ourselves. Now going on to Frank.
Thank you. So, hey, I'm Frank, and I'm going to be doing like the summary. So, when we take critical notice about the book gives us an idea to how to be proactive, how to control a situation without letting that situation control us. So that's why Covey said that we see the world based on our perception, because when we have a positive mindset, our life we will be able to be successful. But when we have a negative mindset, our life is going to be hard. That's why there's a saying from Albert Einstein. He said that imagination is everything. It is the preview to life's coming attraction. And when you take critical notice about that, I think it's true because everything that we see present today came from somebody's imagination. Somebody sat down and he said that we need a car. And today you see that we have cars. Somebody said, let's make planes. And you see that there's planes over there. So if those people were able to make it, how much more we can also make it. So most of the time, in order to improve as a human being, we need to have a positive mindset. We should take away all those negative things from our life, and having that, be willing to take risks. Most of the time, people are afraid to take risks because they're scared that maybe they may fail or something. But most of the time, when you fail, it's a stepping stone for your future. It helps you identify your strength, identify your weaknesses, so that you can work on that to build yourself to be a better person. And when we go to the next slide about how to apply this into our leadership skills, being a leader, you know that you have a bigger responsibility because your major goal is that you need to help your followers reach their dream. So what you can do is that you need to set a good example for other people to follow so that they can be able to reach their goals. So in summarizing everything, what this book is actually telling us is that it's telling us how to have confidence in ourselves, how to have vision, because when you have goals, you are able to work towards that goal and you are able to achieve your dream. Like for instance, why should you come to college? Because you have the desire that you want to achieve a better education in order to be successful. So even though sometimes things may be hard, you may be having that difficult classes and you think that, you know, all hope is lost, but because you have that desire that you want to make it, you pass through that challenge. And when you reach the top, then you can be able to share your experience for people to actually identify how you were able to make it. So simply what the major takeaway that we should take from this book is that first of all, in order to improve on our lives, first of all, we need to believe in ourselves. We need to have goals, and also we need to be able to identify our strength, work on that in order to build a successful life for ourselves. Because you do not get what you want in life, but you get what you strive for. Can we go to the next slide? So here comes our activity. So y'all should go check it out, and I hope that y'all will like it. Thank you. Have a good one.